pledge allegiance to the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item is to approve the special town warrant. There's a few changes that I would like to make. I would like to remove the informational note completely and just have a yes or no. You cannot explain what the yes is or the no is. I just feel that it's very simple. It's either yes or no. Yes.
I'm speaking, my name is Susan Blagden. I'm speaking as a long-term moderator from Wiscasset and other towns. What I came in here to say, you have in front of you, is that the article itself is simple, straightforward. The problem is that the note is fundamentally misleading. The note suggests, now it really does more than suggest, that the cost of litigating will be thrust upon the town. We know, and you know, that there's substantial money available as donation to pay the legal fees. And the note ignores that, and that's why it's so misleading. And I couldn't agree more. There have been too many of these notes added on to warrant articles. And as moderator, I've been on the receiving end of a lot of complaints. And I say, not my problem. I don't write the warrant. If I did, I would write it in simple sentences, words of one syllable. So, yay, Judy. I hope that the selectmen will concur and just present the articles with me.
Thank you. I think last time when we met, last Tuesday, that was the motion, just a very simple yes or no question. And I don't want it to mislead any of the voters. And like Bob had said last time, when you're dealing with the money, that is something that can be dealt with once we have this vote. Any other questions for the board? Comments? Catherine?
You probably all have what I have in front of me, which is a proposed revision to the warrant, but maybe that's not the right one, but there are people who, I think, and I'm one of them, I seem to think that we were going to have either a separate warrant or included on this one the acceptance or non-acceptance of funds from the public. And I remember Peter Murray suggesting an escrow account or something of that nature. And I received calls, etc., from citizens that are curious about whether or not that's going to be available for the people to vote in conjunction with this vote.
Well, I've gone over, I have watched the video from that meeting, I think 4 or 5 times, to make sure exactly what was said. And the statement was made just to have a yes or no vote and deal with funding or whatever we're going to do at a later time. Have one question only. Nothing was said about funding at that point.
Well, there were a lot of citizens that made remarks, and I got quite a bit of input from the citizens at that particular meeting that we're talking about at the community center.
I'm talking about the one we had here last Tuesday night when I made the motion.
I still think we should have something to do with accepting or not accepting. It'd be saying yes or no vote. It could be included on the same warrant. I think although they're somewhat separate issues, they still have a connection.
Does any of the other board members have a comment? Bob?
If we wish to do that, I don't want it to be an informational vote. It would have to be a separate article. If the board wants to do that.
I think you're muddying the water. You're muddying it.
I agree with you.
And I personally feel that you are muddying the water. The purpose of the motion was to give the townspeople an opportunity to say yes or no. If they say yes, then definitely we're gonna have to come back and go and get the funding. If they say no, we're still gonna have to come back and get the money to pay the bill. But I thought the purpose and the motion that I made was just to find out yes or no. Yes, Mr. Leslie.
Steve Leslie from town, and I want to just remind you that we had prior to a week ago a meeting where Ben had asked to have a motion to have this go ahead and get on the warrant in terms of accepting the money. And that was made very clear, and you all voted to go ahead and do that. That was how the town manager put that vote together. That was prior to your suggestion from last week.
That's correct.
So I think the most important thing here is that the public is informed as to what this means and the fact that there are parties here in town who are willing to pony up and pay the expenses of it. That's really important information, because if you simply scare them with the fact another lawsuit, and we've had lawsuits over the past couple of years that have created some negative feelings in town, I think it's very important to be clear and have an educated public when you go to the polls. And that's our responsibility, I think, is to let them know that we're asking for a judgment on this thing, because we're trying to sit down with the DOT and get what's right for this town. And that has been voted back in June, and our selectmen have voted to move ahead with the suit. So I think it's only fair to inform the public, so there's nothing wrong with having an article that actually spells out this information.
Thank you. Yes, Bonnie.
Ron Kennedy Patterson, Wiscasset. At last Tuesday's meeting, it was 5-0 vote on that motion that Judy made. It was very clear. And the people that were in the audience last week, it was very clear what they wanted. Putting a yes or no straight line vote is the only way to go on this article. We don't know if they vote yes to keep the lawsuit going, you're potentially talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. You do not have a commitment for paying that $100,000. You might have a commitment for $75,000, maybe $80,000 more than that. So putting it in another article in there that says you have somebody who's willing to pay the bill, you don't have it in writing. With the potential this bill could go into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. It could stretch up to next year. You do not have that commitment from the people that promised you, and you have some money to pay. You have the commitment to pay the bill so far. Think about that, because that would be very misleading putting that article in. I think it needs to be a straight yes or no on the article that was motioned last week. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
And Leslie, Wiscasset. I'm just trying to understand, no matter what the outcome of the vote would be, what would happen next? Because it sounds like you're saying you still have to solve a problem of paying the existing bills, is that right?
Well, they're paid up to date as of this
They're
point.
paid up to date. So let's say people voted, yes, they did want to go ahead with this. Would we have to have a second referendum to decide whether or not to accept the money into the escrow account?
Correct.
Yes, we would.
So we'd have to have a second public referendum to do that.
Yes.
And then what I'd like to do, Ann, is to get a dollar amount for our attorneys, even if it's just kind of a shot in the dark, like what it's gonna cost. what they project, how many months, you know what I mean? We don't know
Yeah,
what the cost is.
and we don't know how much, private people are willing to give too, so it's a real
Absolutely.
shot in the dark.
So what we want to find out is if they want us to go ahead with the lawsuit.
Yeah, so you're sort of taking it in steps.
Correct.
I'm concerned, it's also intermingled that I'm concerned about not acknowledging the relationship between the two things here, but my other question is, do we have a required town meeting before the referendum? Is there a required town meeting or a hearing?
Yes, there is.
So how far, when would that happen?
That would be, if I'm not mistaken, 10 days prior to the election.
10 days prior, to that, and you haven't set a date yet for the...
Is that going to be set tonight?
Yes, attached to the packet that you have is the actual email from the town clerk that outlines for you the earliest you could do the referendum, when you sign the warrant. At the latest, the public hearing would need to be held by Friday, April 6th, in order to meet the statutory deadlines. The selectmen could do this at their regularly scheduled April 3rd meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to disagree with some of that. We actually have the authority to accept that money from individuals now if we wanted to. That is a standard article this past every March, every June, saying that we can accept monies for whatever funds. So if we wanted to, we could. We haven't chose to do that, but we could do it.
Correct.
Yes, we could.
We just don't know what the.
Yes, Mr. Sutter.
Bill Sutter, Wiscasset. There's some confusion on the whole issue. I read some of the proposed wording to continue the lawsuit regarding the downtown project. That's really confusing to me because, as I recall, the course of events, the code enforcement officer or assistant or deputy sent a notice of violation to DOT on compliance with the town ordinance. And my understanding was that the lawsuit had to do with compliance with the town ordinance. It doesn't have anything to do with, per se, the downtown project. It is whether or not somebody of DOT or the state contractor is obliged to comply with the town's comprehensive plan and the town ordinances, including the HP ordinance, historic preservation. So, what happens? Do any other laws that we have, or violations of laws that we have come up, does it require a vote of the town to pursue compliance with our ordinances? In this particular one, I assume it is, as I recall, something to do with the building permit, and it also includes a review by the historic commission for a certificate of appropriateness for the project and elements of the project. So what we're looking at is, do those ordinances apply or do they not? And the answer to that is DOT says no, and we say yes. And who is the arbiter of that disagreement? The court. So my real question is, why are we even considering withdrawing from that challenge to our, preserving our ordinances, protecting our ordinances, defending our ordinances, which is essentially, I think, what the lawsuit does. It's not about the downtown project. It is about the applicability of town ordinances. There may be some other things in it. I have not read the complete but that being the case, let's talk then about what a yes vote and a no vote is. A yes vote is
we do want to continue the lawsuit, we do want to defend our ordinances. And a no vote does what? If you don't continue the suit, and then the ordinances are further broken, or they're not obeyed, or whatever, what do you do then? This doesn't stop, stopping this lawsuit does not stop the necessity of the town defending its ordinances. What happens if some local folks go out and do something that does not comply, or they don't want to comply with the town ordinance? Do we have a whole town vote to see whether or not they have to? I mean, why are we having this discussion over the defense of the town's ordinance? And as I recall, the big issues came before your 5-0 vote in how do we pay for it, how much do we pay for it, or some people don't want to spend another penny on lawsuits. You can't, the town is not in a position to defend its ordinances without referring or resorting to a legal action if push comes to shove. And that's exactly what we are. Are we going to be pushed, or are we going to push back?
Thank you.
Judy, I think the only thing that we're continuing the lawsuit is the parking spaces. The governor has signed off on having them come before the historical preservation to get a certificate, and they also will go to an appeal if they're denied the certificate. So the only part of the lawsuit is the parking.
And if I'm not mistaken, Jeff, to go back, and maybe Mary can correct me if I'm wrong, when we handed the documents over to Peter Murray and John Schumedine, we asked them to look at the entire downtown project, if I'm not mistaken, to see what there was that could become involved into the lawsuit. So it's not just one particular item. It was a complete package. That is why, in my mind, it's worded Wiscasset Downtown Project. And it is true, we had, they conceded to go to historical preservation to an appeal. The only thing we have the problem with was the parking. Am I correct in my wording?
It's a reasonable summary, yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Bill.
Bill Maloney, Wiscasset. I read the consent decree that our attorneys negotiated with the MDOT, and in there we got nothing. The town, they are going to do downtown, period. The only thing they consented to do was to go to the historical group to get a permit on permission to tear down Haggard's garage, and if they did not get that, they would go to appeals. They didn't say afterwards that they could then go to court. It's very loose. And I think our attorneys are telling us we don't have a shot in the world on winning that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Judy. This is a can of worms I hoped was never going to get open. On December 15th, the state filed an appeal for our Board of Appeals. I'm the chairman of that board and have been for many years. I was, at that time, the chairman also. My term ran out December 31st and I've been reappointed. I did not see that appeal until January 12th. In the meantime, the town attorneys and the MDOT attorneys had gotten together and agreed to waive the time requirements of our Board of Appeals ordinance. They did that within almost minutes of it, the whole time having run. However, their waiver, I feel, was meaningless because it came too late to waive. In the meantime, they had appealed to Superior Court which bumped it up to the business court in Portland. That case has still not been heard. I am very much at a loss to know if the Superior Court denies their appeal. I do not see how our appeals process can overrule a Superior Court judgment. Just another little wrinkle in this whole thing.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Kim?
Kim Dolce, Wiscasset. I think I'm going to be as surprised as everyone else how this turns out tonight. We've had, I just don't know which votes count. I've watched the board vote for option 2, against option 2. I've watched the board vote to litigate with MDOT, to accept money to help pay for that, and now to take this question to the voters. And I just don't know when a vote counts. We elected you, and I'm trying to participate in the process and come to meetings and be part of this and understand what's happening. But I don't know when a vote counts, and when the next day I'm going to find out that something different is going to supersede what has already been voted on. One thing that I do know happens every time we re-vote, whether it's a petition or a special town meeting or another referendum. Every time a vote is questioned, people stand up and say, I don't think the voters understood what they were voting on. So if at the end of this, and I'm not sure what's going to happen, but if at the end of tonight you decide on language, I think the voters need to understand fully what that language is. And I would agree with Mr. Sutter that this has to do, it's not just, do you want to continue litigation? Because I'll lay money, somebody's going to stand up and say, I don't think that the voters really knew what that was about. So you need to explain what it is about. I think that's the only way, if you are going forward with this. And I don't really know why you would, because you've already voted to do it. I trusted that vote. So,
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Yes.
I'd just like a little clarification on the discussion. 10 days prior to the vote, there will be a public meeting, is that correct?
That is correct.
Isn't that a wonderful time for people to find out what the vote's all about?
That definitely is, and I think the more people that attend the town, that open hearing, the better off they are. The newspapers can get any information out, and people should, I think this has been widely publicized on Channel 6, 8, and 13.
So
The town of Wiscasset and the lawsuits. I don't think people can say they don't know what they're voting for.
Let's keep the question simple and get as many people to the public meeting as we can, and it'll be explained there. If they have any questions, they'll be answered.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
I'll second.
You second my motion to remove the informational note? So we're going to remove the informational note. All those in favor of the warrant?
With the note removed.
With the note removed, yes.
Excuse me, this is one article, what's on here is Article 2.
Yes, that's all that'll be on there, is Article 2.
Thank you.
All those in favor of just Article 2? All those against? It's 4-1. Thank you very much.
When are we going to set a date?
I just did a vote on the date of the
Yes, we will vote on the date. We will have, okay, I will make a motion to have April 17th as the day to vote. And we will set, I don't want to do it on April 6th. I don't want to do it on a Friday night. When do you want to have an open meeting? Or can we do that later? I don't want to do it on a Friday night, an open meeting.
For the public hearing?
Yes.
Well, the clerk's note says, at the latest, a public hearing would need to be held by Friday, April 6th. The selectmen could do this on their regularly scheduled meeting on April 3rd.
Okay.
So April 6th is the latest.
Okay. So we'll set the referendum vote for April 17th, and the informational meeting, public hearing will be April 3rd. Everybody second that?
Yes, second, yep.
All those in favor of those dates? Thank you very much. Okay, now, we're going to go right into our budget hearing. Okay, I'm sorry. I got a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Okay. We'll wait a few minutes. Then we'll have our...
Thank you.
You know, those old homes are beautiful, but they